Welcome back to Small College Conversations. I'm Kristen Eargle, and I'm joined by Dr. Ronald Reeves, Aquinas' Director of Athletics. Thanks for being on today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. This is great.
You are now finishing right around year one there at Aquinas. Okay, we have to hear from your perspective. What are some of those key wins you've had this year?
Well, first and foremost, coming in and really getting to know the campus. Being from Detroit, Grand Rapids on the other side of the state. So coming in, getting to know the coaches, getting to know the student athletes, getting to know just those around the campus. Since I have a PhD, I go to different things like the faculty assembly, the staff assembly. So I get to know both sides of actual campus. Obviously we love the wins and losses of being able to be on the field, but able to also do different things outside of that, where we did the blackout cancer thing. And that's something I've done at other schools, bringing that to Aquinas and being able to raise $4,000 for our council support. What we do with University of Michigan Health has been nothing but great. We're able to also make some changes. We're able to restructure our staff. We're able to get some fundraising going, and we're also able to hit those numbers that we want to for bringing in those student athletes and making them very happy about what we do here at Aquinas. So overall, building that trust, building that foundation so we can move into the future is really, really some of the big key takeaways from this year.
Some of those things I'm going to ask you more about later. A lot of exciting things going on. But for you personally right now, let's talk about your career path. How do you think you positioned yourself to become a director of athletics?
Well, you really understand the good and the bad. Throughout your career, you do really great things and then you make some mistakes. And so understanding that you have to keep moving, you have to keep rolling, you have to understand what you did right and what you did wrong. But more importantly, I really got to know myself. Over the years, I came in with one thought of what I was going to do, how I was going to get there, but then try to listen to yourself, listen to your heart, but also listen to those around you. You ask your mentors, your friends, am I doing the right thing? Is this the right timing for this? Is this the right opportunity? And of course, coming over to Aquinas, I'm from Michigan. I'm a person who looked at Aquinas when I was going to high school, but also I have a wonderful daughter that goes to Grand Valley. And so she's right across the street. And so having to have that really thought, you really got to, in order to be an AD, you have to go somewhere where you feel like you can make a difference. And also matches what you want to do longer term. Don't just take an AD job just to have one. Take one that actually matches what you want to do, where you want to be, and you'll be able to do way more there than you would just take any old job.
You spent the majority of your career at D1 schools before being named AD there. You served as a revenue development specialist for Denver Arts and Venues. Talk me through some of that. What are some of those things that you learned there that are translating now?
So it's crazy, working in athletics for so long, you realize you're raising money, you're doing all you can, but then you get outside of athletics and you realize there's so much more there. And so understanding that you really have to value that work-life balance. Being able to work there, I still had crazy hours, still had to work weekends, but it was like when I got home, I sat down and I breathed. I know that we all take our phones home, we take our computers home, being able to do extra work, but I stopped doing that. I got to the point where I can get to athletics and still work in athletics and be able to go home and breathe some and being able to be more relaxed. And then also taking care of self. I saw a counselor and made sure I took care of my health, because I had previously had a kidney transplant in 2021. And so taking those 2 years to really evaluate my health, my time, all the different things were just very, very, very valuable, because coming now back into college athletics, I love athletics. I'm always going to love athletics. I love being around. I love taking care of things, but I still value my time with my family so much more. When I get to be out for a weekend or do something, we don't have an event, I smile, I sit down, I have fun. And I just learned that, tomorrow's not promised. And so you got to understand, no matter what you do, you got to value what you're doing now versus what you did last year, what you're going to do in the future. Take care of now. Some of the times we're always looking forward to the future. And so working for the city of Denver, I got to meet so many different people who told me hey, keep doing what you're doing, which is great. Because again, you get to hear it outside of your normal field, is that you're doing a wonderful job. I was able to bring to Denver different DEI programs, different ways to make money, connected things to my fraternity. I'm a member of Omega Psi Phi. And so it's just finding ways to connect you to what you do for work. And so I do the same thing no matter what job I'm at. I'm how do I connect me to my job so I can make sure that I'm able to get the best of both worlds?
Is that the message that you're also sharing to your staff? I mean, take care of yourself. Sometimes we don't do that in athletics. Do you use that
Yeah.
example?
Yeah. Well, it's crazy because when I came in, there was a lot of things going on. And, some of the coaches like, sorry, I missed a day. I had somebody die in my family. And I'm like, it's okay. Take more time if you need time. We're going to be here. Trust me, if you need somebody to take over for you, we're a family in this department. So we make sure we take care of each other and just giving them the time, the space, the opportunity to really love who they are. And even I'm like, hey, do you need additional resources? Getting them across campus, but also saying, hey, go take your wife out, go take your husband out, go hug your kids. It's those things that we get so bogged down into. Sport is our life, and you got to realize that your family, whatever you want to do outside of, you can do it and also enjoy it. So that's been one of the biggest things. Coming to Aquinas, I told him on the interview, I'm going to be myself. If you don't like me as myself, that is fine. You know what? I'm still going to love myself. We're still going to make what we got to do best. But I tell coaches, be yourself. I'd rather argue with the person that I know versus I don't know you. What are you going to do? Should I trust you? And so, yeah, being very, very valuable of being yourself and making sure my staff does that too. So, yes.
Wow, that's wisdom there. Okay, you were in budget management at a Power Five and HBCU institutions. What's some of those strategies that you learned there that you're implementing now to be sustainable at a smaller college?
Well, you got to be flexible. You think about, I worked at a lot of schools, and our fiscal year starts in July. By January of the year before, you know what your budget is. That doesn't happen at all schools. So you really got to understand, like, hey, how do I work this budget? How do I work within the budget? And then also, how do I forecast for the future? Here at Aquinas, we have great roster needs. So if we have 40 people, we have to understand that last year we had 35. So how do I speak to the CFO, the president, the provost, and say, we might need some more money, or we might not need to go backwards. And so understanding over time, you got to find ways to also fundraise. Our coaches do a wonderful job of fundraising, from camps to doing different things with their parents and their students to make sure that we bring in that extra money. It's just one of those things. At the end of the day, we in athletics, we're that one that you can't say you got to stop spending. No, we technically have, something going on all year round, but how do we make sure that we stay responsible in our spending? And how do we make sure that we're still getting people different things that they need, but also taking care of, all right, hey, you need to do some professional development. How do we build that in? How do we build in, when we win, we need some extra money because we're going to go to different things. And so that's what's happening now. Our rugby team, we're like, oh, we weren't expecting this, but you know what? Great. Also, we're going to take care of you. And so understanding that you need to be very open in what you need and be able to communicate it to your staff, and those things that you can't communicate, make sure you talk to your supervisors and make sure that they understand we're going to need this. This is coming, so they can understand what's going to be needed within the budget. So you got to be flexible, but you also got to be very, you got to take care of it, because at the end of the day, you don't take care of the budget will take care of you.
That's true. Very well stated there. In your open, you talked about one of the highlights was the restructuring when you came in. So let's go back to that a little bit. Obviously, when you restructure, there are some gaps that you identified.
100%.
This needs tweaking a little bit. What were some of those gaps, and what were those strategies you used to fill in there?
Well, you come in and you pay attention to what's going on around you. For us, outside of athletic training and outside of athletic communications, we had 3 full-time people, which I went, okay, so 2 of you are both working in internal operations. We have nobody taking care of game day, taking care of fundraising, taking care of all those things on the external side, which I could do, but as an AD, you want to at some point get that out of your wheelhouse. And so I said, why don't we change this into an internal person and an external person? That's just simple math of this is going to work. The person bringing in the money, the person taking care of the money. And so able to do that restructure, which made some changes, hard for our staff. But at the end of the day, they knew who to go to for which one. And they also knew who reported to them at the time. The crazy thing about it is, just a couple of weeks ago, both of those people left. And so now I have to relook and see, all right, does this make sense? But also, is it in the budget? So understanding at Aquinas, you know what, we had to make some budgetary changes. So now I'm going with the deputy athletic director, which now gets this person with a little bit of both. First, a little bit of internal and a little bit of external. But we also never had a person to my knowledge, who was over strength and conditioning. So now we're building an assistant AD to be over sport performance. So now you got a person who can help out with athletic training, but also do the strength and conditioning side. Because for me, what I learned in making those two roles last year, they were great, but we're still missing some of the student athlete well-being side of it. How do we make sure that they're stronger? How do we make sure that they're taken care of? How do we make sure that they have the time needed to be able to take care of themselves to get back from those injuries? And so that's been one of the things that now we're doing now. We're interviewing for it now. It's been nothing but great. And I think we're going to be able to get two great people to now fill out our senior staff.
Wow. And I love your perspective there and the fact that, okay, you took this direction and even in that year go, oh, we might tweak this even more. And kind of having the open mind of going, making changes along the way. And I think that's what great leadership does. Speaking of success, Learfield Directors Cup Success, Aquinas finished top 10 in the NAIA Directors Cup during your first season. So what were some of those things that stood out to you that made that happen? Maybe some operational or cultural changes that really brought that about?
Well, it's crazy. We have wonderful fall coaches. We got Coach Woes, who's over cross country. We got James, who's over women's soccer. We have Ryan, who's over women's volleyball. And then we have Luke, who's over men's soccer. All great coaches, all deserve big applause and to be able to get whatever opportunity that they want. Supporting them. And what we did was make sure that at one, we had any athlete, hey, you know what, if you're not playing today, if you're not practicing, come to those games. So like our fan engagement was great. We're able to support them in different ways that I think they didn't have in the past, but also letting the coaches and the teams fly. You know what, this is your budget. This what you got to do. Go out there and actually win on and off the playing services. And so being able to support them and being able to understand. And so I and my staff were at every championship. That was one thing that we didn't do in the past all the time is have an administrator go to your championship. So I went out to Missouri for the cross country championship. We had another person go out to Iowa for the women's volleyball. And so you start going down the list of like, we're there to support you. And I think those student athletes enjoy that so much more because, again, in the past, they were like, we don't always know who our administrators are. We don't know who to go to. And so being able to get them more excited, like, you know what, you guys already are awesome. Now you got more support from your student athlete friends or the campus community coming to your games. The cabinet would come to the games where it was just a different atmosphere that got everybody excited coming into this school year. Like, okay, we got a new AD. Oh, well, yeah, we got a new provost. Oh, well, we have a new thought process. So how do we now get you excited to want to win and also be like, I remember that person. And so they were so excited. And it was just one of those things that carried over to, and again, having great coaches makes it much easier, but also giving them the support that they need and making sure that, hey, we're here for you and we're here for your student athletes.
Okay, as we sit here recording this, yesterday, big news at your university. Your president stepped down after 3 years of being there. How do you approach this whole thing? I mean, what's going to be your plan as we move through that process?
And first and foremost, President Cordova was great. I was one of the, I don't know what order it went, but I made sure that I sent out a text to her like, thank you. I don't know all the details, but I want to be very supportive because she was one of the people who kept it real with me during my interview. Like, I need somebody here who's going to come here and do some changes and make sure that they are supported by the president. So she's done nothing but great things. I think as we move forward, we have to understand we're the athletic department that has over 80% of the student population. Wow. And so no matter who the provost is, who the president is, who the athletic director is, we have to keep moving. And so you have to keep moving. You have to keep being supportive. And you have to say to your students, like, we're going to be fine. We're still working towards getting Aquinas to that greatest level that we can. And also spend time talking to the provost and the new interim president and be like, okay, what can we do? These are some of our areas that we're working on that former president was working on. How do we continue to move those forward? And so it's really being very open and honest and transparent. One thing I do with my staff, if there's something going on, I email them, I have a conversation. And so some coaches have reached out and some of the athletes and even parents have reached out via email. And so I try to say, hey, we're working through it. I don't know what's going to happen, who's going to be on what committee, when we're going to get this all done, but we still got games to win. We got things to do. We're at the end of the semester. We need to get some good grades and be able to move forward. And so just making sure you stay, again, in the present and making sure that, hey, in the future, we're going to be fine. We're here to support you. And, I say nothing but kudos to our former president now, and hopefully we'll move forward with someone who can continue to do a wonderful job.
Did you know this president before you took the job at all?
I did not. The crazy thing about it, normally when you get an AD job, you know somebody.
Right.
I knew nobody from Aquinas. And so when I applied, I was like, we'll see what happens. Again, I was working for the city of Denver. So I was working outside of athletics at that time. But I was like, you know what? My daughter's there. At some point, I want to go back to Michigan. And I was just like, but I knew nobody. So that was a huge blessing from above to be able to get our opportunity coming from not athletics at that time to be able to come here and be the AD and lead the department.
So what you learned, obviously, walking into a situation where you didn't know anyone walking into the door, and now a new president will come in that you likely may not have met before.
Right.
How do you build rapport quickly with people?
Mm-hmm. You spend time with them. I think at the end of the day, like, yeah, you can read my resume, you can do all different things. I can read yours, but who are you? How do we connect? We're going to have things in common that it's not going to say on paper. We just know how this is. You have a conversation, you get to know the person. Then you also tell them, hey, this is what was good. This is what was bad, but this is what we want to do, and be very, very positive in your approach, because they need people who want to be there. They need people who want to be a part of it, and they need people who are going to be positive. And so one of the things going on at Aquinas, just like any other institution, you got the people who are for it and who are against it on your same staff, on your same community. And so coming in and be able to say, hey, this is what we're doing great in athletics. I need your help here. What can we do? How long would this take? You just got to have an actual outline of what needs to be done. And, those things have been communicated already to the cabinet, to the provost. And so being able to move that forward and see what that person thinks, because you just never know. You have a president come in who may be focused on X, and it may not be athletics. You have to understand that and be very, very understanding that, hey, athletics may not be where you want it to be right now, or it may not be your focus, but let's make sure we keep doing what we're doing. So when our time comes, we're able to step up.
Very well said. Biggest challenge that you faced in year one, and what is the biggest challenge you anticipate for year two?
Biggest challenge is really getting accountability. And I don't mean that there wasn't accountability in the past, but we made some changes. Again, president changed, will be changing, the provost changed, our head of HR changed. You go down the list of, hey, this is what I want to do. Oh, well, hold on, wait a minute. We're still working through person starting or person getting ready for this. And so I was able to bring a lot of accountability to our department, which made some changes, some good, some bad changes. But also next year, you're able to kind of see, all right, we made these changes. Let's move forward. Let's see how this actually looks. And so now we're hiring 2 hockey coaches. We're hiring a golf coach, assistant AD, a deputy AD, a men's basketball assistant. These are all happening at the same time. Wow. And so we're going to spend a lot of time making sure that we focus on getting the right people, however long that actually takes, but also moving forward. Okay, hey, this is now how this looks. This is our structure. This is our, our plan. How do you move those things forward? And so most of the things we wanted to get done our first year, we have been able to, but then there are some things we still want to work on a strategic plan. A couple months ago, we talked about doing a cornhole tournament, and then everything flipped upside down. And so if that's one of the goals we can get done in year two, great. It's just continue to have fun. We're a family. And so continue to bring that family atmosphere to what we're doing and be able to get the right people, no matter who's here. I want to make sure that we have a family atmosphere that will continue to move us forward. And student athletes see it. Student athletes see it every day. They can tell whether you're fake, real, what's going right, what's going wrong. And so getting accountability and getting some excitement for next year is what we're planning on.
Final question for you. The NAIA's R.I.S.E objectives focus on inclusivity. How do you think athletic directors should use some of these principles in hiring and student athlete support, community engagement? How do you think it touches all of that?
The crazy thing is I'm coming in and I'm actually the first Black athletic director at Aquinas. And so coming in and understanding that and coming in and going through a process that was very inclusive, very understanding, very exciting was great. What we do as athletic directors, especially me, now, again, I got a lot of stuff to get done. But how do I do it in an inclusive way? Okay, cool. I'm adding $10,000 to the women's budget. I got to add $10,000 to the men's budget. I'm looking to get people to interview for these spots. Send them in different areas around the country. Hey, I want to reach out to some ladies. I want to reach out to some Hispanic individuals. I want to reach out to people who don't necessarily work in athletics. They might have opportunity, just like myself at the time, to be able to come into these roles. And so being able to also support students and meet them where they are. The hard part about now is that student athletes are wonderful, but they have to have more conversations about, why do I have to do this? Okay, so being able to give the coaches the tools to understand, like, in order to do what you have to do, you have to also talk to the student athletes. They have to get a better understanding. You can't just tell them to go run through a brick wall. They're going to ask you why. How is this going to hurt me? What happens to my parents? You just got to be able to be more understanding, and then community engagement. At the end of the day, here in Aquinas, our campus is mostly one color, but our community is very many colors. And so how do you bring those people on campus? So whether we have a basketball camp, a soccer camp, this camp, bring them on campus. Even across the campus, they have art camps, they have music camps, they have all these different things. And so being able to be around and be an athletic director who sees these things and can kind of say, all right, cool, you want to come to our school? By the way, we also have all these different things that are not just you playing on the field, but you can have the opportunity to we have the block model. If you want to have classes done quickly, great. Just make sure they don't happen during your season. It's just like stuff like that you're able to have a lot of tools in your toolbox to be able to be inclusive, not only just by color or by activity, but the totality of what's needed within your athletic department to make your student athletes whole. So when they graduate, they understand, yeah, I may have won, I may have lost, but I got a degree, I got some more experience, my resume is full. I got to do a lot of things within this Grand Rapids community that's going to make them a greater person to be able to move forward.
Okay, I said it was a final question, but I'm adding one to you. When
Yes,
did you decide to get your PhD, and why was that important to you? And I do want you to throw in there that you've been involved with Special Olympics, near and dear to my heart. I love it. A little bragging on yourself. Go ahead.
Yes. Well, being a young Black African American, I always wanted to get the most out of my education. And then I started to ask questions to my family, like, hey, who else has a PhD? Who has a PhD? Nobody did. And I said, okay, you know what? That's one goal that I have for myself. My mother started hers, but she wasn't able to finish. She got a lot of things going on, being a single mom, all that stuff. So I said, you know what, Mom, I'm going to do it for you. I'm going to make sure that I get it. So this is not just for me. This is for the whole family. And so and I knew that I wanted to stay within college athletics. The more education, the more training you can get, the better. That's one thing that I always tell people, like, you don't have to get a PhD like me. Just get what you can. Again, training on the actual, like, doing the job, that's the best training ever. But if you can add things along the way, whether it's certification, a training, a good mentor, a good mentee, it's going to help you. It's funny you mentioned Special Olympics. I'm a big person for philanthropy. What I've always done throughout my years, I grew up in Detroit. I went to Sacred Heart Church, and I was in a mentoring program, and all the guys there were very involved. Like, they taught me how to tie a tie, how to throw a football. They also taught me how to sit down and shut up when I needed to. It's just one of those things. And so I knew that when I grew up, I was like, well, how can I give back? And it was like one of the things that was very natural to me. I saw when I was in high school was they're doing Special Olympics. What's that all about? And then you realize there's different facets to it. There's different sports. There's people who are athletes. There's people who are helping out. And so I was just like, well, I can go coach. And so when I was in undergrad, started coaching bocce ball, started coaching track and field, and it just kind of went on and on and on and on. And so over the years, like 2 years ago, I was able to be the coach for Colorado State track and field team. And so took them to nationals, went down, had a blast in Orlando. And again, they make me feel so great because no matter if they win, lose, or draw, they're so excited. And that's one thing, again, that's hard to get within athletics. And so I try to make sure that I instill within our own coaches. Again, they want to win, but how do you bring forward those champions of character within the NAIA to get them to be people who 10 years from now, they're like, you remember when this person did this? And it doesn't always have to be wins and losses. Just like they did this within the community. We're already having those conversations where, we have created the Nellies, which is our student athlete awards banquet. Never been done, but that was when I interviewed. That's what they wanted. And so giving them to be a part of it, getting them to be excited about it, is just something that has been great. And so being able to be an athletic director that listens is crazy because, again, there's so many times you kind of lose touch because you're like, well, this is the way I've done it all these times. This is what actually works. You know what? Let me ask a couple questions because those answers to those questions from the student athletes can be so much different from what you were thinking and planning and all that thing. So, yeah.
All right. Such great insight. Thank you, Ronald, so much for your time and continued success.
Yes, thank you so much. You know what? I appreciate all you guys are doing. You guys do nothing but wonderful things. So I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.